Alrighty, so I've just mounted a 56 tooth sprocket onto the back of that. The next thing I need to do is to prepare the engine for mounting on the frame. This is why I prefer 2 strokes over 4 strokes, because 4-stroke engine will never clear the pedal like that. Okie dokie, so down here is our BT100. We're going to prepare the frame for mounting on the bike, and how we're going to do that. We've just got our thread locker, and we're just going to put a bit of thread locker in there, load up our mounting studs. That's pretty much it. The internals of this engine look really good, so there's nothing I needed to do there. Mounting the engine to the frame is probably the easiest part of this project. The hardest part is going to be the throttle and the clutch cable. I had said earlier that, yep, there's plenty of length in them, they'll be fine. But because of these ridiculous ape hanger bars, it's making fitting the cables really difficult. So I'm still not sure how I'm going to go about that yet, but there's nothing I can really do about that until I get the engine mounted. So I'm going to use the stock hardware for mounting. I have been known to replace them with aftermarket hardware from Bunnings, but we're just going to use the stock pieces for this because, you know what, I'm sure it'll be fine. I hesitate using 6mm hardware on the standard engines, but there is only 2 mounting bolts each side, whereas these have 4, so it spreads the load basically over twice the area, and that's why I'm happy to go ahead and use the stock hardware. Now what we're going to do is apply our thread locker. Right, so I've just turned that in by hand. You don't want to wind that in all the way because you'll start eating into the case, and that's bad. So I've just done that in until I feel it snugged up firm. Once that thread locker sets, that will have done its job, and we should not have anything working its way out. Now I just need to go and wipe up that excess thread locker. Right, so we're going to stop there. I'm going to go around the engine and do all 8 bolts, and I'll check in when we're done. Right, so our mounting hardware is in, but before I go and add the excess weight of the engine to the frame, I need to go around and reinforce all the mounting points for the death traps, the mud guards, because engine vibration is going to rattle those tiny little bolts out. It'll get wrapped around the wheel and cause an injury. So I need to clean up all this again, and we'll try and stand the bike up on the table so I can do some Loctiting over the cardboard. Let's just take a moment to appreciate how precariously balanced this bike is on the coffee table. Handlebars nearly reaching the roof there. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull out all of the bolts for the fender, Loctite it, reinstall it, and while we're at it, we're going to install the luggage rack on the back, because that's the exact same process, and we may as well do it while we're here. Right. So that's luggage rack installed. I'm really unsure unsure about putting the front fender on. It's not going to be secure enough, and it's just going to get wrapped around the front wheel. I mean, it looks cool, it's just not safe. Alrighty, so we've made some progress. The engine's mounted into place. 56 tooth sprocket is on. The next step is to see what I can do about fitting that clutch cable. I know that it's too short, but basically what I'm looking for is just seeing how much extra cable length I need. I still don't know for sure how I'm going to make this work, but there's only one way to find out.
1 week later.
Alrighty. To be able to move ahead with this build, I had to do something about the throttle cable. Now, joining two cables together was a bit of a nightmare. I didn't really want to have to do it, so I went ahead and bought like a bike cable kit, $10 off eBay. Had two cables in it. Now, I messaged the seller and he's like, yeah, one's 2.5 meters, one's 2 meters. So nah, one's about 2 meters, the other one was about 1 meter. But it means that I can at least use one of those cables to sort out my throttle cable. And to be able to customize that to length, I have to trim this outer sheath down to a length that I can use. And to do that, I took the throttle off and I measured the amount of wire sticking out the end, which is about 60 centimeters. As you can see, I will then have to create an end on the cable so that I can use it as a throttle cable. And to do that, we've got a whole shitload of solder. So we're going to create a little bead on the end of the cable, and hopefully that sticks well enough that, you know, I can actually use it. I've actually got too much cable at the moment, which is good, because if I do muck it up, I've got plenty of room to keep on trimming the cable down, probably about an extra ½ meter or so. But if I do get it right first time, I'll just leave that extra slack in there. Right, so I've just trimmed that down to length, and as you can see, I've got a nice clean hole there, whereas when you just use these, you crimp the ends and basically ruin your housing. So what I need to do now is I grabbed a spare throttle cable housing. That is, of course, this bit here. And we're going to thread our new cable in like so. Basically, I grabbed the spare just to make sure I've got a visual and I can make sure that everything's been put in the right order. Of course, once we all do that, it'll be time to put it on the bike. So I realised what I've done. When I measured this piece, I forgot to account for the length of all this, which means I have to remeasure and basically start again. Yeah, because when I measured the cable, I held it up against this part without considering how much longer that piece is. There we go. Now, with any luck, that should measure up to the stock one. Pretty damn well, in fact. It might take me a couple of tries, but I'll get there in the end. Here's our end cap on nice and snug. Now, what I need to do, so this is the stock throttle cable. I need to get my solder and just try and create a ball about that size on the end. So of course the throttle slide has something it can work with. Alright, we're looking there, looking like we're getting there. So I'm pretty happy about that. It's my first attempt at soldering a cable. Certainly first attempt at soldering a throttle slide, a throttle cable. What I'm going to have to do here is just get the little grinding disc off on my Dremel and just shave that down a bit, because of course what's happening is it won't fit through there. Alright, we finally got there in the end. That's exactly what we want to see. Alrighty, so clutch is in, throttle's in. Next step will be to connect the CDI. And the good news is I don't think I'm going to have to extend that wire because it looks long enough. And then we'll go ahead and stick the chain and the exhaust on, and we'll be ready for our tank. Okie dokie, update time. The chain is on. I had to remove one link, which was a nightmare. I am not confident about that tensioner, but it seems to be lined up fairly well. Plenty of space. I have a big tank to go on there, but I'm missing a petcock for it. So we're just going to put the stock tank on just to get this thing broken in. The little tank is mounted. I will be upgrading to the larger tank, but for the sake of break-in, this will be fine. I still just have to connect the fuel line and the exhaust. By the time I do that, it'll be time to take the bike outside. But before I do that, I have to go ahead and replace this seat. And the seat I'm replacing it with is that. It's a nice big cushy seat. So looking under here, I don't think this is going to be particularly easy to replace. So if I can't just replace the stem, then I'll just undo all this and mount it up under here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that seat post off and we'll have a look. As I had thought, it's all cast together, so I can't just throw the seat on top. So I'm just going to have to undo that clamp, and I'll undo all this, and we'll be able to mount these bars here into this clamp. So, a concern I have with this bike is it's going to be difficult to get on and off. This thing is just ridiculous. It's impossible to get on and off. All that's left to do is to tidy up the cables, stick the exhaust on, and we're pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to crack on with doing that, and hopefully the next time I hit record is when I'm ready to get it started up. Well, this thing started first fire, which is bloody incredible. Where are we? So I'm going to get kitted up, and absolutely we're going to take it out for its first road test.